So in today's lesson, we're going to work on the grades project that we received yesterday. So yesterday we should have gotten started on it. We should have created a grades class and a tester class. In the grades class itself, we wanted to have a instance variable that would be an array of ints, and we would then want to add a constructor that is the null constructor, and in the assignment itself it tells you to have the null constructor create an array of 10 integers randomly from 60 to 100. So that was the assignment. This is my null constructor. I set scores equal to an array of int of size 10, and I went through a for loop that produced um, numbers between 60 and 100. So to do that, I wrote a method called getRandomScore, and I send it a lower bound and an upper bound. And I'll show you what that looks like. So it receives a lower bound and an upper bound. I made it private because I'm only going to use it from within this class. And I had it return a random number from the random object, which I call gen, short for generator, dot next int, and upper bound minus lower bound plus 1 gives us the range of values we want from 0 to some value. And then plus the lower bound shifts it into in this example, the range from 60 to 100. And we should, um, let's see if we can test that out. So in my grades tester, I created a grades object called period 1, and I'm calling the null constructor right here. So this right here calls the null constructor. And then this is going to call the method that prints the grades separated by commas. I have another one here that um, calls a second constructor that we didn't write yet, so I'm going to comment that out for now. Oopsie. I'll comment that out for now, and we'll compile this and print commas. I guess we have to take care of that. I probably have that commented out in the grades project. So let's take a look here. So in here, we have the constructor, and then there's my second constructor, which we're not going to look at yet. And print commas I have commented out, but I don't want that commented out. So let me uncomment this, print with commas. So we'll do that. We'll uncomment that. We'll compile that. It looks good. We'll, in the tester, I'll compile the tester now, and that looks good, and let's just test it. So what should happen is it prints my 10 scores, which was what the null constructor was supposed to do, create 10 scores, and it prints them out separated by commas. There's a comma in the last spot. I'm not going to worry about that right now. That's something that you can think about. How are you going to eliminate so that on the last one it does not print a comma? Okay, so that takes us through the first constructor, and then I'm going to write in the grades class a second constructor. So this is our first one that receives um, a nothing at all, and the instructions were to make it an array of 10. And the second constructor is this one here, which I have in um, commented out, and I'll uncomment as we go. So here, I want a constructor. Constructor always has the same name as the class itself, grades. And I'm sending it an integer. So this one, when it receives an integer, and I should uncomment this for now. We'll see what this looks like. Let's edit that and uncomment that. And I guess we need to do that twice. And when we take a look at this, first thing we do is modeling it after our declaration of the size of the array scores in the null constructor. We made it 10. Here we're just making it count. And that's the only difference. That's the only difference in the this second constructor. So let's make this a little bigger so we can see what we have so far. We have our null constructor, makes it of size 10 and ranges from 60 to 100. And in this constructor, we send it count, and it creates an array of size count, still ranging from 60 to 100. So that brings us to the third constructor. And in the third constructor, I'm going to copy this one. Actually, let's test this first before we do that. So let me close this. Let's open the tester. And let's add in a second set of second grades object. This grades object is called period 2. And we're going to have 30 grades in period 2. So this calls the constructor that sends it an integer, and it should create an array of 30 grades ranging from 60 to 100, and we want to print those as well. So I'll compile that, and we'll then run it and see what that looks like. So there's my grades from the period 1, and here are my grades from period 2, which extend off the page, and we did that in a previous lesson, how to make that return and be on the same page. So let's fix that. So in our print, when we're printing the grades separated by commas, I have a line I can add in here to every 20 I'll go to the next line so that we don't run off the side of the screen. So that takes care of that. When we finish printing, when we finish the for loop here, that prints the data, I want to skip a line. That's why I have this line right here. So when it's finished printing, it skips a line. And if we go back and compile again, and we run this again, we should see that first set of data, and then that was the 10 using the null constructor, and now we've used the constructor that sends it X number of we want to create 30 test scores in this example. And we tested that, and that worked fine. So what we're up to now is we could try next to add either another print, and the print is really simple. It's as simple as the one we just had. We just want to separate by tab, or we could add that next constructor, which asks us to send a lower and an upper bound. So I think that's what I'm going to do next, because I don't think you'll have a problem adding that print tabs as opposed to print commas. So let me close this for a minute. I'll go back into grades. And in grades, I'm going to add one more constructor, and it will look like this one. So let me copy this. And we'll paste that here. And what we want here now is we want another integer value. I'm going to call that LB for lower bound. And we want another int, which I'm going to call UB for upper bound. And counts, we're going to keep the same. And count here is creating our array of size count. And then I want to go through the loop And I want to create scores that range from lower bound to upper bound. So before we hard coded this to create scores from 60 to 100, but now I'm going to have it create scores from lower bound to upper bound. And let me compile that, and it likes that. And let's go back, and in the tester, let's add another class. So I will skip a line and add that here, and I'll call this one period 3. And we're going to take period 3, and after we create our period 3 set of grades, let me do 25 grades this time. And we want them to range, we want to use that third constructor we wrote. So let's have it range from 50 to 75. Let's let the values range from 50 to 75. And we'll compile that. That works when we compile it. And we'll run that and see what that looks like. So we should get a third set. These should be 25 of them, and they should range, and it looks like they do, range between values from 50 to 75. So hopefully that points you in the right direction to continue on the grades project. And I'll give you a few more pointers tomorrow.